The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show.
Here's yo daddy.
And we'll show up. So if we can schedule it, we'll show up. I want to thank Ted. Was a young man that I met the other day at some bar that I went to, and he was really, really nice. Invited me to a party. And Ted, I'm sorry I couldn't make your party because we just, you know, with the show we keep pretty busy. So I just wanted to apologize to Ted about that I wasn't able. I did get your message, but I wasn't able to make the party. So again, I want to thank everybody that's been nice to the show. I know that I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. Our viewership has grown over 200%, and this was about 2 weeks ago that I got that figure, so it's actually even more now. I know that this is not a lot to some of you people, but our website is averaging over 800 hits a week. So, dude, we went from 2 to 3 hits a week, and now we're at 800. So I don't know what we're doing, but you guys seem to like it, so we're going to continue doing it. I like drinking, so I'm going to continue drinking. So anyway, all right, back to the show. Today we're going to talk. We're going to show you a video of of something that's been going on for a while, and it's like nobody wants to explain it to us. So I wanted to show you guys a clip so that you had an idea as to when you look up in the sky and you see all these white lines running across the sky. We're about to tell you, or we're about to inform you, if or what that is. I'd always been wondering. I know people that say, "Oh, dude, that's just airplanes driving, you know, flying by, and it leaves that trail." No, those aren't contrails. These are chemtrails. A friend of mine named Rick Robbins, many, many moons ago, he was a pilot, and he explained to me that what happens is when an airplane goes into the air, it gets so high up that the sun hits the wings of the airplane. And that heat and the cold air up there causes condensation. And that's what you see at the back of the plane is basically ice. Well, after the plane goes, that ice melts, you know, and then you got nothing. Well, with chemtrails, it's a little different. Chemtrails is short for chemical trails. Chemtrails, they go up there and then they spread one little line. Well, it looks like a little line, but one little line will spread up to 60 miles wide. One thing that I've noticed myself was that after they spray with chemtrails, soon after they spray, usually 2 to 3 days later, sometimes 4, you got rain. My concern was, what are they spraying us with? And why won't they tell us what they're spraying us with? And then they say, well, we're not spraying you. We don't know what you're talking about, you know. Those aren't chemtrails. We don't know, you know. I hate to be the one to tell you, but from what I understand, our government lies to us. I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah, right. Anyway, so again, we're not a political show and we're not a religious show. What we are is we're an educational show. Now, do we know everything? No. But when I find something that I think is going to affect you and affect your children and affect your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, I think it's important that you find out and look into this stuff. So today, we have a video that I found for you guys, and it has to deal with chemtrails. Now, I know a lot of you are sitting there going, what are you, crazy? There's no such thing as chemtrails. Well, I found a woman who actually worked with the Air Force, and from what, if I remember correctly, she was in the Air Force. And she was the one who, they had any chemicals that came to the base had to go through her. So we're about to show you this video, and it's a really, really important video that I want you guys to watch. I wouldn't show it to you if I didn't think it was important. So please, please, we're going to give you a more to come little spot so that you're going to have like 30 seconds to, you know, take a puff, take a rip, or take a sip. So you're going to have 30 seconds, and you can go to the bathroom, do, you know, go beat up your husband, whatever you're going to do. You got 30 seconds to do it in. So Tyrone, can we roll the more to come, and then we'll do the clip? Okay. So the video is going to be right after the clip, so make sure you tune in. And we even have a timer now, so you know exactly how much time you have to come back to your seat. So we'll be right back.
All right, first off, I just want to, I know everyone else has said it, but I really appreciate everybody that has come out here today. It's not just showing up and supporting an event, it's actually listening to those of us who are here to share a message. So, as it was presented to you, I'm here to speak to you about geoengineering. First thing I want to ask you is, who doesn't believe it exists? Anybody here on the fence? Okay. Well, hopefully when you leave here today, you don't just believe it, you share the information that I'm going to share with you, and you get more people on board to stop this unethical crime. I want to show you a video clip because the first thing people ask me about geoengineering is, who are these people? Who are the people that are, you know, kind of pushing the button to get this thing going? One of them, his name is David Keith. And David Keith has been low in the radar for a while, but he has written a book about climate engineering that has basically done more for the truth movement of this than anything. Because he is the frontline person that is the #1 advocate for geoengineering. And I want to show you a clip. It's about 6 minutes, so just bear with me.
You ever look at those planes up there? They have contrails on them.
Maybe all those planes are the contrails. Maybe they're actually spraying chemicals into the atmosphere right now, and Uncle Sam isn't telling us.
Seems extremely unlikely.
That the United States is not telling something to its citizens, that seems extremely likely to me. Read the newspaper.
And of course, there are a lot of problems with what they're proposing. It turns out plants need sunlight.
Yes.
Have you gotten some grief for suggesting this?
Sure. I mean, this is like writing a book that's the case for leprosy.
Well, first of all, let me ask you this question, because there's a rumor, I don't know if this is true or not, that some scientists are trying to figure out a way to block the sun to try to slow down global warming.
Could an individual start this?
In practice, only a country, a big country.
What about a man in like a hollowed-out volcano with henchmen who occasionally shakes his fist at the sky and says, "They said I was a fool at Harvard. Who's the fool now?"
It's All Things Considered from NPR West. I'm Arun Roth. If scientists get the calculations wrong, it could be catastrophic for life on Earth. Or what if the technology got into the wrong hands? Couldn't someone shoot poison into the atmosphere?
So people are terrified about talking about this because they're scared that it will prevent us cutting emissions.
Right, and also that it's sulfuric acid.
It is.
You're bearing the lead. Is there any possible way this could come back to bite us in the ass?
You know, you put another kind of pollution, sulfur dioxide, up to orbit, cover the atmosphere. The sky won't be really blue in the way it is now anymore.
Blanketing the earth in sulfuric acid, because I'm all for it. This is the all-chocolate dinner. I still get to have my CO2, and I just need to spray sulfuric acid.
Right.
All over the earth.
Right. But we put 50 million tons of sulfuric acid in the air now as pollution, and it kills 1 million people a year worldwide.
Okay, and that's good or bad?
It's terrible.
But it'll be better if we put more in. So if it kills 1 million people and we're only doing 1% more, we're just killing 10,000 more people.
You can do math. So killing people is not the objective here.
Killing people, not the objective. I just wanted to be clear. I just wanted to be clear.
Because some very mainstream scientists are saying that the climate change situation is so bad that saving life as we know it might require something radical, like shooting chemicals into the stratosphere to reflect sunlight.
This is the kind of stuff I wake up sweating about. Exactly.
Well, it's your goddamn idea.
No, it actually turns out to be an old idea. This was known since President Johnson, and the scientific community mostly decided not to talk about it.
What happens to the sulfuric acid after it's sprayed? Does it just stay up there?
No, it rains down.
Okay.
But as I said, it rains down.
Okay.
It's a tiny addition.
Okay.
And you'd put, say, 20,000 tons of sulfuric acid into the stratosphere every year, and each year you have to put a little more, and this doesn't, in the long run, mean that you can forget about cutting emissions. We will need to rein in.
No, we'll get to it eventually, yeah.
But it does.
In the meantime, we're shrouding the Earth in sulfuric acid.
So it is that you could actually spray sulfuric acid in the stratosphere 20 kilometers over our head and use that to stop the planet warming up in a kind of ugly tech fix.
You could spray something into the atmosphere to change.
Spray pollution into the atmosphere to stop it warming.
So in the end, pollution saved them all. We owe pollution. We owe acid rain an apology, is what you're saying.
A totally imperfect technical fix.
Okay.
It would have risks. It wouldn't get us out of the long-run need to stop polluting, but it might actually save people and be useful.
The sky won't be really blue in the way it is now anymore.
The chemtrails are being used in conjunction with HAARP. By spraying metal oxides into the air above enemy skies, then directing ELF waves from HAARP to heat those metal oxides, the temperature of the sky is raised to more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit, preventing the accumulation of water vapor that would otherwise form clouds and produce rainfall.
So I wanted you to see that video because I wanted you to have a face for somebody who's actually out there violating the ethics of their job to promote geoengineering. I'm going to talk about geoengineering, but I want to share a story with you. Every time I'm asked to speak, I public speak for a living. I'll go into that, but I don't get nervous to speak to you. What I get nervous about is not getting emotional telling you my story. Because in 2002, shortly after 9/11, like a lot of military veterans, I raised my right hand and I took an oath to the Constitution to hopefully do something meaningful with my life. 19 years old, unsure what I wanted to do. So I enlisted in the U.S. Air Force. My job in the U.S. Air Force was working in bioenvironmental engineering. So what bioenvironmental engineering is in the Air Force is equivalent to that of the OSHA and the EPA, if you're familiar with that. So we were an embedded liaison to make sure that we were tracking all of the aspects and impacts of the military, meaning what is the military doing and how is it impacting the environment, because we were accountable for that. Being government, we did not get any special treatment. We just couldn't be fined being another federal agency. EPA can, but not OSHA. So from the health side, it was knowing what you do in the Air Force. What does your job entail that is hazardous to your health? And I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that you were an aircraft painter, you were a mechanic. My job would go out to make sure I knew everything that you did, what you were exposed to, and how to mitigate and engineer out those hazards. Because we needed to, one, it's your legal right to be working in a safe and healthful work environment. So throughout 9 years, I worked as an industrial hygienist and an environmental specialist. There's two bases I was at that are called air logistics centers. What does that mean? It's not like a fighter wing, it's not really fun and amazing. What they did is they took aircraft that around every 10 to 15 years, they were required to be dismantled down to the last screw. So that meant every single industrial process you can think about, checking the metal integrity, making sure everything's good to go, or sometimes overhauling equipment. Part of my job in tracking the health hazards was to look at any time someone wanted to buy a chemical, any type of chemical. It was ordered through a system, and in that system, I had to go in there and say, You know, the country we're in, we're not allowed to use this. We need to substitute it out with something a little less hazardous, while also maintaining the integrity for a technical order, meaning for that process it says you must use, you know, xylene or toluene to do this process. Well, I have to kind of fast forward. I want to say around 2006, I started kind of opening my eyes to how the military wasn't really what I thought it was. And people approached me knowing what I did for a living and said, have you ever heard of chemtrails? Well, I hadn't. And that sparked my interest. So I went online and I looked at chemtrails. I saw a lot of, you know, debunking, a lot of sites that were just kind of calling it a conspiracy theory. And I thought, well, geez, this is what I do for a living. Preventive health, making sure that people are not getting sick, especially in the workplace, and by things that we're doing that can affect, you know, human health and the environment. To summarize it, in an attempt to debunk this conspiracy theory as I thought it was, I didn't debunk it. It literally changed my life. Like I said, this is hard for me because it's not easy standing here and telling my story. One day I was going through that computer system, which if you want to look it up, it's called an Air Force Form 3952. It is the approval of hazardous materials. I was finding tons and tons of large quantities of aluminum, barium, strontium in the forms of oxides and sulfates. And of course I knew that there's industrial processes you may not have heard of, but it's bead blasting, pneumatic sanding, shot peening. There is certain medias that's similar to that is used. However, I had already accounted for that. I would sit and look at this computer system and say, this shop wants to order this paint. I'm gonna tie it to a task. We had to know what was being used, why it was being used, tracking it cradle to grave on how we were gonna dispose of it to be compliant with OSHA and the EPA. One of the legal requirements in approving these is looking at what used to be called the material safety data sheet. On that sheet, it's gonna list the manufacturer. It's gonna list some maybe required personal protective equipment that needs to be used or some ways to mitigate the exposures. These electronic MSDSs did not have a manufacturer name. They were very vague. They almost looked to me like somebody had made it and scanned it into the system. So I asked the question, what is this being used for? I never got an answer, so I didn't approve it. And it sat there. And then the heat came down. Why aren't you? Are you behind on your 3952s? Only a select few of us did that. So I started asking questions. And at that point, my demonization began. You know, I made my rank. I was decorated. I was a non-commissioned officer of the quarter. I won lots of awards. I had no reason for anyone to attempt to demonize me. So then I get moved over to the other Air Logistics Center. There's only two in the Air Force, which is in Warner Robins, Georgia. This kind of carried with me, and I thought, you know what? Should I revisit this? Is it worth it? Did I hit something? Maybe it's need to know. I started finding the same things at Robins Air Force Base. I was now doing some more investigation work. Part of what I did was to use a high volume air sampler to air sample up to, I'd say, a football field in about 10 minutes. I also conducted soil sampling because I thought, you know, if this is real and they are spraying this, it's gonna get to the ground. So I conducted air sampling, I conducted soil sampling, and I was getting high levels of these contaminants. When I started asking the question again under a new commander, I never in my life thought I would have somebody look me in the face and tell me, I am questioning you. Is there something wrong with you? You've been looking really depressed lately. You know I can put you under a mental evaluation for up to 120 days. Who would take care of your daughter? Because I was divorced at the time. As soon as I heard that, I knew. It validated everything I ever thought. And I thought, I've spent 9 years of my life trying to protect human health, and here we are violating law after law after law. Just sitting here, instead of protecting the people, we are poisoning the people. And I've never got up so much courage from that fear of being thrown in a cage, because when you're in the military, folks, you're a number. You are a number. and every aspect of your life is controlled. I was so lucky that my enlistment was coming up and I was supposed to re-enlist. I ran and did not look back, and I have been blowing the whistle and shouting ever since. And I left October 27th, 2010. Thank you. It didn't just end there, though. You got to remember, there's a whole career field of people that work in bioenvironmental engineering. A lot of those people were told, do not talk to me. Do not talk to her. Do not email her. They were given no contact orders. Because my biggest thing was, if I'm just so, dishonest, don't you think somebody would come out and say, she was never in the military, or something negative to discredit me? They've ignored me, but they've tried to silence me. Every time I fly, I am pulled into a secret room. I literally am tagged in the system for the TSA. It is difficult. As an industrial hygienist, I do very well for myself, but it has been so difficult after leaving the federal government to maintain employment. Nowadays, everyone runs background checks on you, and the first thing they look at is, wow, here's a whistleblower. And you ask yourself, if this is true and we are spraying the people, where are the pilots? Where are the people? I don't know if you pay attention, but look at Snowden. Look at Manning. People don't come forward because these supposed Whistleblower Act protections that you have are not enforced, they're not supported, and they really don't exist. Well, what I want you to take from this is to understand that I am being completely honest with you, and that geoengineering is occurring, it's been occurring, it is not new, and your tax dollars are funding this. I 100% know that the US Air Force was involved, and I think back to all these things that I never had noticed. If you don't know what to look for, you can't look for something. And once I realized a process they were trying to hide, people have come out of the woodworks, from EPA compliance officers to ex-people that I worked with in my career field, who I cannot state for obvious reasons. I've had pilots come forward. I've had people come forward that actually load the canisters on the planes. These people don't come forward because they are afraid that they're going to end up like Snowden. And I continue to speak to let people know I've been screaming about this for 3 years and I'm still here. And why are you so afraid? Because many of these people are on active duty. And if you are willing to die for your country, supporting, the Constitution and defending us from enemies foreign and domestic, you are willing to die for your country, but now you're scared. You are scared and cowardly to talk about this. So I'm not just speaking to all of you in this room, I'm speaking to all those people that are gonna watch this online and watch it on YouTube. Because you can come forward, you can help expose this, and we can stop it. So many people wanna ask why? Why is this occurring? That's for later thought. From weather modification to weather weaponry, there's numerous reasons under Agenda 21 and tons of theories. But my job as an industrial hygienist is to make sure that I comply with the laws and enforce them. So it is unethical every day for all the other people that are out there that work in preventive health, or even physicians that aren't speaking about this. They need to. So one thing I want to tell you is what you can do about it. The biggest hurdle that we have is disinformation sites. I never say them, but I'm going to today, so that you know if anyone ever gives these to you as a reference to debunk you, it's Metabunk and Contrail Science. Those are two websites that are ran by a government shill named Mick West. And he is a computer gaming programmer who tries to tell you about persistent contrails. So somebody who isn't even credentialed in chemistry or physics or ecology, none of that, is trying to tell you that you're crazy. Okay? So also on social media, don't just hit the share button. There are links. You have to understand that I have met people who used to be purposeful disinformation trolls, as we call them. These people are paid to pretend that they're you, to get you on board to believe a website or an article, just so that you look so vulnerable. And then later it will be deemed non-credible, and then you look non-credible. So please vet, research. And if you have something to write with, I want you to take down my email. It is Kristen, Kristen, Megan, MEGHAN, @gmail.com. And by emailing me, I can give you some information for what I'm about to tell you. If you still don't believe it, or you still want to convince people, there's something you can do. You can take a glass jar. It needs to be a glass jar, so there's no BPAs. Take a rain sample and take a snow sample. I tried to discourage the soil sampling because everyone's background of where you live is different. Because a lot of the materials that are used in geoengineering are natural occurring in Earth, just not in the industrialized form that they're used. So if you take these rain samples and you take the snow samples, email me, because I cannot publicly tell you where to send them, because we've actually been blackballed by labs who refuse to run our samples. And a problem that is occurring is people are sending in rain samples to labs that don't realize how low the limit of detection needs to be, because these are nanoparticulates. They are very small. So if you email me, I can tell you where to send in your samples, and it's only around $50. That may be tough on some people, but it's way cheaper than maybe what you assumed. So I just want everyone to know and understand that of all things, of all the freedoms that we are losing, geoengineering is the #1 issue that we are facing. Because you can have guns and money and you can have everything. If you don't have food and water and you are dying of respiratory or neurological illnesses, what does it matter? So you've heard about vaccines, and you'll hear, about smart meters, and you'll hear about other issues like fracking. These are all systemic effects. We are getting overexposed to toxins. People will tell you fluoride's in the water, but it's not a lot. It is a lot, because you're getting it everywhere in your food, water that you drink. Everything is washed with that water. And you're getting it in your vaccines. All this, it's a coupled systemic effect, and our bodies cannot metabolize these toxins. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to my story. And I will continue to shout from the rooftops. I don't care how many jobs I lose. I don't care how many friends or family I lose. Because I took an oath. And in 9 years, I was not able to honor that oath. But I am today.
Hey kids, hold on a second, doing some handyman work here. Okay, I hope that you guys are paying attention to what that lady was saying. I know that there's a lot of skeptics out there as to what's really going on up in the sky. If you are skeptical, please look up into the sky and you will see these chemtrails that are not normal. It's not normal to have one line going, 400 lines going this way and 300 lines going this way. That's not normal. What are they doing? They won't tell us. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if I got a visitor telling me to stop talking about chemtrails pretty soon. So anyway, but I thought that it was something that you guys needed to know about. And I thought that it was something that, not just for yourselves, but like I said, for your kids and for your grandkids and your great-grandkids, it's something that you guys need to look into. So who do you contact? She gives out her email address. She gives out information as to who you should contact to find out more about this stuff. So the next segment, don't forget that we've got Tyrone Pelotas coming up pretty soon. But first we're going to do a new segment that anybody who knows me knows that I like poetry. The one thing about poetry is that, or one thing about poets, according to statistics. How's that, huh? Statistics. And I've been drinking. The thing about poetry or poets is that they tend to die sooner than most people, okay? Which is really, really strange. So if you're not into poetry, I understand, because we're raised not to be into poetry because, you know, it's going to make you not manly enough, you know. So that's what they try to teach us anyway. Well, I don't think that's true, you know. I don't think that's the way it should be. I think that kids should be encouraged to write poetry. I think they should take, you know, a classroom at school and just say, you know what, for the next 30, 45 minutes, an hour, we're just going to write a poem, you know. And so that's what this segment is about, is I want to read you guys a poem. It's by a famous poet by the name of Walt Whitman. And he wrote this poem a while back. And but it was really cool. It's a really, really cool poem. And I thought that you guys might enjoy it. And if you don't want to listen to this poem, then it's time to take a sip, a rip, or a puff, or one of those. Anyway, so this poem it's a really cool poem, and I'm going to try to read it off my iPad here. So if you see me looking over, that's what I'm doing. Okay, so this is called Salute à Monde by Walt Whitman. Oh, take my hand, Walt Whitman. Such gliding wonders, such sights and sounds, such joined unended links, each hooked to the next, each answering all, each sharing the earth with all. What widens within you, Walt Whitman? What waves and soils exuding, and soil is exuding? What climes, what persons and lands are here? Who are the infants? Some playing, some sombering. Who are the girls? Who are the married women? Who are the groups of old men going slowly with their arms about each other's necks? What rivers are these? What forests and fruits are these? What are the mountains called that rise so high in the mist? What myriads of dwelling are they, filled with dwellers? Within me, latitude widens, longitude lengthens. Asia, Africa, Europe are to the east. America is provided in the west. Banding the bulge of the earth winds the hot equator. Curiously, north and south turn the axis ends. Within me is the longest day. The sun wheels in slanting rings. It does not set for months. Stretched in due time within me, the midnight sun just rises above the horizon and sinks again. Within me, zones and seas and cataracts and plants and volcanoes and groups and Malaysia and Polynesia and the great West Indian Islands. What do you hear, Walt Whitman? I hear the workmen singing and the farmer's wife singing. I hear in the distance the sounds of children and of animals early in the day. I hear quick rifle cracks from the riflemen of East Tennessee and Kentucky hunting on hills. I hear emulous shouts of Australians pursuing the wild horse. I hear the Spanish dance with castanets in the chestnut shade, to the rebec and guitar. I hear continuous echoes from the Thames. I hear fierce French liberty songs. I hear of the Italian boat scholar and musical recitative of old poems. I hear the Virginia plantation chorus of Negroes of harvest night in the glare of pine knots. I hear the strong baritone of the longshoremen of the Manhattan. I hear the stevedores unlading and cargoes and singing. I hear the screams of the waterfowl of solitary northwest lakes. I hear the rustling and pattering of locusts as they strike the grain and the grass with showers of their terrible clouds. I hear the Coptic refrain towards sundown pensively falling on the breast of the black vulnerable. You vast mother, the Nile. I hear the bugles of raft tenders on the streams of Canada. I hear the chirp of the Mexican mule deer and the bells of the mule. I hear the Arab muezzin calling from the top of the mosque. I hear the Christian priests as the altars of their churches. I hear the responsive bass and soprano. I hear the wail of utter despair of the white-haired Irish grandparents when they learn the death of their grandson. I hear the cry of the Cossack and the sailor's voice putting to the sea at Uxt. I hear the wheeze of the slave coffle as the slave march on, as the husky gangs pass on. By twos and threes, fastened together with waist chains and ankle chains, I hear the entreaties of women tied up for punishment. I hear the sibilant swisk of thongs through the air, and I hear the Hebrew reading his records and palms. I hear the rhythmic myths of the Greeks and the strong legends of the Romans. I hear the tale of the divine life and the bloody death of the beautiful God, the Christ. I hear the Hindu teachings, his favorite pupil, the loves, war, adages permitted safely to this day from poets who wrote these thousands years ago. What do you see, Walt Whitman? Who are they you salute, and that one after another salute you? I see the great round wonder rolling through the air. I see dismunit farms, hamlets, ruins, graveyards, jails, factories, palaces, hovels, huts of barbarians, tents of nomads upon the surface. I see the shaded part of one side where the sleepers are sleeping and the sunlit part on the other side. I see the curious silent change of the light and shade. I see distant lands as real and near to the inhabitants of them, and as my land is to me. I see plantaneous waters. I see mountain peaks. I see the Sierras of Andes and Alleghenies, where they range. I see plainly the Himalayas, the Cheyenne Shais, the Altais, the Ghats. I see the giant pinnacles of Elbrus, Kazbek, Bazikdashi. I see the Rocky Mountains and the Peak of Winds. I see the Syrian Alps and the Karnak Alps. I see the Pyrenees Balks, Carpathians, and to the north of the Dorfin Fields and off at Seamount, Hasia. I see the I can't pronounce his name. I see Vesuvelius and Etna. I see the Anahuacs. I see the mountains of the moon and the snow mountains and the red mountains of Madagascar. I see the Vermont hills and the long stream of Cordelius. I see the vast deserts of Western America. I see the Libyan, Arabian, and Aztec deserts. I see huge, dreadful Arctic and Antarctic icebergs. I see the superior oceans and the inferior ones, the Atlantic and the Pacific, the Sea of Mexico and the Brazilian Sea and the Sea of Peru, the Japan waters, those of Hindustan and the China Sea and the Gulf of Guinea, the spread of the Baltic, Caspian, Bothnia, the British shores, and the Bay of Biscay, the clear sun Mediterranean, and from one other of its islands, the inland fresh-tasted seas of North America, the White Sea, the sea around Greenland. I behold the mariners of the world. Some are in storms and some in the night, and with the watch on the lookout, some drift helplessly, some with contagious diseases. I behold the sail and steamships of the world, some in clusters in ports, some in their voyages, some doubles the Cape of Storms, some Cape Verde, others Cape Guadalfo, Bon and Badajoz, others Dondra Head, others past the Straits of Sundia, others Cape Lopakata, others Bering Straits, others Cape Horn, others sailed the Gulf of Mexico for along Cuba or Haiti, others Hudson Bay or Baffin Bay. Others pass the Straits of Dover, others enter the Wash, and others fifth the Solway, others round. Cape Clear, others the Land's End. Now that's not the whole poem. The poem is a really long poem, and I just wanted to kind of read to you guys a little bit about that. When I listen to poetry, when somebody else is reading it, what I like to do is I like to close my eyes and I like to imagine, you know, when they're just talking about the Appalachian Mountains or they're talking about the Rocky Mountains, you know, I like to imagine, you know, the mountains and what it would be like right now to be there. I like to imagine things that we tend to take for granted, you know, things like the leaves changing color, you know, all these little things that are going on around us and we just take for granted because it's, you know, boom, no big deal. Well, it is a big deal. It's, it was put there for you to enjoy. So if you have a poem in your heart and you'd like for me to read it on air, or if you want to come down the studio and read it, we'll put you in front of a camera and you can read it. So, so if you have a poem you want to read, send it to us. And we'll schedule you. So, well, we'll try to schedule you. So next what we have is Tyrone's Pelotas, which is a segment that Tyrone is a very, if you know Tyrone, you'll know that he's a very, very big football fan. And you're really going to enjoy it because he's got a really good eye for football. He knows what's going on with it and stuff like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a more to come in case you need to go to the bathroom. I think you get 30 seconds if you need to go to the bathroom or get a refill. So sit back and relax and get ready for some football news.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I'm on TV. Look, it's me, Tyrone. How y'all doing today? We're going to talk about some Longhorn football. This is Tyrone D. Smith, and this is Tyrone's Pelotas. Today, we're going to talk Longhorn football. I got a clip for y'all. I can't wait to show it to y'all, but I just want to talk about Mr. Tom Herman. After his first season, we went to 500, like .500. So basically, we only got 6 wins and 6 losses on the year. It's his first season. You know, it's Tom Herman, man. He did pretty well, I would say. A lot of high expectations from him because he's coming from Houston, where he went undefeated, beat the Sooners when he was at Houston, destroyed them. So there's a lot of expectations because it's Texas. And we expect that we win at least 12 games. You know, we expect to be undefeated. But it didn't work out that way. But he put some good pieces together. We know who our quarterback is, Sam Ehlinger, who he's a fighter, man. He's a tough runner. He fights his heart out. We have a clip from the highlights from Texas Tech and the University of Texas. I'm going to go ahead and roll that. So go ahead and roll the clip for us, please.
That's Armani Foreman. Look at him go. Wow. Touchdown, Texans. And Antoine Wesley's one touchdown catch is negated. King and Stockton, the two setbacks. Out of the shotgun.
Nice.
Play fake, touchdown. Well done by Carter.
Yeah, I did.
Or was that Dilly Dilly? And the left-hander slings it. It's picked off. It's Chris Boyd, his old high school teammate, trying to take it all the way back, and he's down inside the 10. Ellinger remains the quarterback. Young, touchdown! 17 yards for Gerard Hurd, the former quarterback. Still would be the third option for Texas, has taken some snaps during preparation for this game, and a lot of games. That ball's on the ground. It's recovered by Tech. It's Jordan Brooks. And the Red Raiders get the first key turnover. And out of the hole. Ooh. That one will just sneak in the right upright. Shimonek for the corner. It is caught. It is Basher. It is touchdown. There's a flag late. 29 touchdowns to only 8 picks for the young man. That was replaced tonight. Young, the setback.
Look how close they are to the line of scrimmage. This is pressure here all the way.
Well, this could be your ball game right here. One more first down. Over the middle, it's intercepted. Picked off. That is Justice Parker. He may go the distance. Taken out at the 15-yard line by Ellinger. To see if they would take a look. They did not. Lofting it for the corner. Touchdown, Batson. Texas Tech takes the lead. Wow. Not a bad, it's senior day here in Austin. A pretty good senior night for the Road Warrior from Lubbock, Texas. Incredible victory. So much at stake. First time that Texas Tech has won back-to-back games in Austin.
And we are back. I hope you all enjoyed the clip. I'm sorry in the clip Longhorns didn't win that game. It was their last game of the season against Texas Tech. My cousin Danielle, she went to Texas Tech, and I always give her trouble whenever UT would win, so it kind of sucks this year that Texas didn't come through. A couple things I just want to say is that our defense is probably the biggest highlight of our season. Todd Orlando, our defensive coordinator, amazing. Some pieces we had, Malik Jefferson, Poona Ford, who's a senior, he won't be with us next year. Boyd, our cornerback, our safety, Deshaun Elliott. Man, that safety is amazing. He's going to get better. So we have some good things to look forward to. We have a great, solid defensive line. We have a good secondary. It's only a matter of time before Texas, brings it up. It's not going to be right away like everyone, got to have 12 wins. Tom Herman's first season, he didn't get, he got 500, 6 wins, 6 losses. So, it's pretty good overall. I would say he did pretty well. So I give him a thumbs up. So good job, Tom Herman. I wish you the best, and I hope the Longhorns come back strong next year. We're going to be talking more about basketball and different sports, and I'll talk a little bit more about the NFL next week. But I just want to say the Longhorns' record for the basketball is 4-2. We're doing pretty well, and I see that we're going to have a good season. So stay tuned for more Tyrone's Pelotas next week. Right now we're going to go to useless information. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching Tyrone's Pelotas and the Big Daddy G Show. Thank you for staying tuned, and see y'all soon. Go to useless information. Peace in the Middle East.
Can we move the clock, the actual clock?
Hello, how are you, darling? Just today we're going to do is segments that you love. I don't know why you love it, but you do. So here we are doing it again. It's called Useless Informations, and we're here to educate you on useless information. So here we go. We're going to start right away. I only got one camera today because, I don't know, this Tyrone D. Smith, he's a crazy guy, and he's just not right in the head. So I only got one camera. So the first useless information that I got for you is, do you know the little barcode that's on the candy bars and all the products? The first product to have a barcode, it was the Wrigley's gum. Do you know what I'm talking about, the Wrigley's gum? That was the first one. So there, now you know. When you sneeze, air and particles travel the nostrils at speeds of 100 miles per hour, okay? Do you know what I'm talking about? Don't you wish your kids could move that fast? During this time, all body functions stop, including your heart. So when you sneeze, that's it, your heart stops, contributing to the impossibility of keeping one's eyes open during a sneeze. Just try to keep your eyes open when you sneeze. You can't do it. You can't do it. Try it. Go ahead. Go get some pepper and try to get it, okay? It's not going to work, so cut it out. The annual growth, here's number 3. The annual growth of the WW traffic is 314,000% per year. That's a lot. You need to get outside and go talk to some people or something, because you're spending too much damn time on the computer. 60% of the people using the internet, they use it for pornography. Oh my goodness, not me. Pornography. All right. Viva Mexico!
What do you know? The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show. Hi-ho, what do you know? The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show. Hi-ho, what do you know? The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show. Hi-ho, what do you know? The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show.
Here's your daddy.